right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do a little blasphemy today. Okay. Yeah, I got home from work this morning and I just crashed for a little while. Hence why I'm just in my robe and loungewear. Um, but but trust me, that's not the blasphemy aspect. Um, so I was just laying there on TikTok and just random fucking videos are popping up. And it was funny because you got everything from these weird freaking skits that people seem to think is a latest fad to issues with not getting a boyfriend. Okay, this is just fucked up. Okay, type stuff. This is why I don't really like the world. Everybody's into too much fucking drama. But here it is. Lately, in the last couple of days, Christians have been popping up in my feed, and I don't fucking understand it, because normally it's the algorithm brings forth the videos that you're looking into, right? So, if that's the case, where the fuck did Christianity come from? And when you're looking up things like Santa Morte, you're following practitioners of the African Caribbean traditions to Satanism. Where are these Christians feeds popping up? You know what I'm saying? But I don't mind it really. I mean, I really don't. It doesn't really bother me one way or the other. But what's interesting is you got these grown ass men and women who claim to follow every word in their Bibles. Okay. They claim to believe everything that is written in this thing, right? But yet none of these motherfuckers, none of them follow it. They don't follow the Ten Commandments. They don't follow anything. But yet they like to preach it. Okay. So I thought I'd take a few minutes and kind of just go over a few things. So I went to my bookshelf, picked up the Teacher's Reference Edition off the shelf, and then Webster's New College Dictionary. Okay. Now, let's go under L. First of all, we'll go underneath Lord, because they're always saying that Jesus is Lord, right? All right. So, okay, there's a couple of things here that says Lord. A person having great power and authority, a ruler, a master, the owner and head of a feudal estate. Notice the key word, feudal. One's husband. Now, humonious, God, with the accept and direct address. Jesus Christ, often with our. Okay. In Great Britain, a nobleman holding the rank of baron, viscount, earl, or marquis, member of the House of Lords. Okay. A man who, by courtesy or because of his office, is given the title of Lord, as a bishop, a younger son of a duke or marquess, or a lord mayor. Okay, and it goes on from there. Lord High Chancellor, for an example, the Privy Councillor in Great Britain who presides over the House of Lords, basically the court system, if you will. Basically, you get the gist there. Okay. Now, what's interesting here is that when you look at the title Lord, it means somebody of great authority or power, right? Like a bishop, a minister, a clergyman, a king, queen, prince. Okay. Now, in this book, it does not say that he is Lord. Okay. It does not mean he is a king. If you go into Matthew's chapter 1, okay, Matthew's chapter 1, let me get to Matthew's chapter 1 here. Come on. There we go. And you go down to 21. And it says, and she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall serve his people from their sins. Okay? So he shall save his people from their sins. Okay? Excuse me. Now, if you go down a few a few chapters, verses down, like say verse 23, behold, a virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted means God with us. Okay. Now, in Hebrew, Jesus' name is translated into Lord. Okay. Whereas, which basically means son of. Okay. Son of. Emmanuel means God with us in Jewish customs. You see the translation of different languages there. Now, if you go into 2 Corinthians, let's see here if I can find it real fast here. Right there. Chapter 4, verse 4, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, okay, who is the image of God, shall shine unto them. Okay. You'll notice that they use a little g. Okay. This is to basically discredit or discriminate against. Basically placing that emphasis on the lesser of the latter. Okay. Now, depending on the translation that you have from the King James, New King James, Gideon, or you know, the NIV, it says that Satan is the god of this world. Okay, God of this world. So it's the only place in the Bible that you'll actually find the name of the God of this world. Okay, so is Jesus is God of or son of, and meaning God with us, don't you think that means that Satan came in the flesh, not Jehovah? Just saying. Okay. But what's interesting here is if you go into, let's go back to Genesis chapter 1. As soon as I can get here real fast. All right. That's number 4. There's number 1. Okay. And it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? Now, what's interesting here is even if you go into Revelations chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 22 of Revelations, it says that I am the Alpha, the Omega, which basically means the Alpha, the only one, right? So if there's only one God, then that God would be Satan. Just saying. Okay. Even if you go into John chapter 1, it says in the beginning was the word was with man, the word was God, God, and all that stuff. And you drop down to verse, what was it, verse 13 or 14, and it says the word, John 14, 13 rather. And it says, and the word was made flesh and dwelt among us for a little bit. Okay, so right there you have the word and the spirit, right? So the spirit of Satan has already come onto this world. It has already He has already come and visited this world. So therefore, the God that you're following as a Christian is not a white light God, but Satan in general. Just saying and pointing that out. Now, what's interesting is if you go down, and I'm going to go on to this one here because this is something else that does not make sense when it comes to Christianity. And all Christians will eat this shit up. And I'm not joking. And I believe in chapter 1, it is verses, yep, 26 and 27 in chapter 1, where it says, and let us make man in our image. And he made them both man and woman. Okay. And then you go into chapter 2, verses, what is it, 16. Okay, right here. And it's chapter 22. Okay. And chapter 2. And it says, and the Lord basically God goes off and he makes a woman, okay, from the man's rib, okay. This is 22 through 25, okay. And now if you go into verse 3 or chapter 3 rather, and it says that verse 16, and unto the woman he said, I will multiply greatly the sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Okay. Now, what's interesting here is even though you have the first 3 chapters in the book of Genesis, he made man and woman 3 times. 3 fucking times. And yet Christians will sit there and say that Eve was the first woman. Really? So, how do you explain the first 2? Genesis chapter 1, Genesis chapter 2, and then finally in chapter 3, he removes the rib from Adam and makes Eve. So that makes 2 other women long before Eve. Okay? But yet you're basically stating that a woman is property. Okay? Now, it said you will be unto your husband. Okay? Even in Matthew's chapter 19, verse 5, it says that a man shall leave his mother and his father and cleave unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh, meaning to have kids. Okay? So you look at this world today, you have trans, pans, bis, gays, lesbians, and so forth. Okay? There's so many different identification processes, name wise, that I don't even think I even named all of them. That's how far behind I am on that. Okay, and I can freely admit that, but Christians can't. Okay, so with that said, if you go into chapter 4 of the book of Genesis, chapter chapter 4, it says Adam and Eve knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord, right? And she again bore a brother Abel. Okay. Now, what's interesting here is even after this point, she had three sons: Cain, Abel, and Seth. Okay. Now, even though Cain killed Abel and became the father of murderers, okay, this is what he became known as. That was his curse, his mark. Now, what's interesting here is Cain and Seth ended up having wives of their own, right? So, if we follow Christian terminology, that all mankind started out with Adam and Eve, that's one man, one woman. How is that not incest? Number one, they slept with their mother, who bore them children, if we follow that logic. Second of all, if they went to another land and they ended up getting wives for themselves, where did these other people come from? So again, you've got the title of Lord. So Adam would be classified as a Lord because he was the elder. He's the man, the husband. So therefore, he ruled his house. Jesus became known as a Messiah, a Lord, a religious practitioner. So the title of Lord would befall him. Interesting, isn't it? So now we go back into the book of Genesis and we're seeing not just how a man and a woman have a hierarchy where the man is the god of the house, the woman is the beta, and then the children are the omega. Okay. If we're following pack law, as in a pack of dogs. Okay. So Cain and Abel fought, competed for the blessings of their Lord. Okay. In this case, that would be Adam, not Jehovah, not Yeshua, not Allah. Hmm. And that's coming from your own Bibles. Okay. Now, let's go into the next thing, religious worship. Okay. Let's go to, I believe it's Deuteronomy. Went way past that. My bad. I want to say it's 23, 24 area. Oh, let's go back a little bit here. Oops, a little too far. Okay, so it would be chapter 5 in the book of Deuteronomy. And these have become known as the Ten Commandments. These are the laws of your so called God. Okay? Now, when you go into a church, ministers will direct you to the altar. They will refer to this as a bread of life. So even if you have a child begging for food, they'll give them the Bible instead of a cheeseburger. More so, they will direct you to the house of God. Okay? The house of God. Okay? They will direct you to the altar or to the cross. Okay? To a man of God. Okay? Now, what's interesting here is in this chapter where you're looking at the Ten Commandments. Number, verse 7 says, "Thou shalt have none other gods before me." Okay? So why would you worship a man of the cloth? Why would you worship a house of God? Why would you worship an altar? In fact, why would you worship an actual cross? Okay? Because if you look at this, verse 8, literally the following verse says, "Thou shalt not make thee any graven any graven image, okay? Or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth." Wow, really? Okay. Hmm. So this is why Catholics bend a knee on the podium and pray to an actual image of a guy hanging on a cross, a crucifixion symbol, I might add. Okay. So is that not considered a graven image on the earth? Okay. Hmm. I mean, I can go right to the dictionary and look up the word graven image. Okay. Hell, you can even look it up on Google and you probably get a lot of different results there. So you've already violated not one, not two, but three commandments of your Ten Commandments. Wow. Because verse 9 says, "Thou shalt not bow down thyself unto them, nor serve them, for I am the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me." Wow. Okay. So you literally just bent a knee to a graven image. Hmm. When you go to an apostolic church or a Pentecostal church, they have you go down to the podium. This is the altar, okay? Where you will pray unto their God. Hmm. So again, you're prostrating yourself, either laying down face down, bowing down on a knee. Wow. Or you're standing before an altar. So you violated that one as well. "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh the name in vain." Now, how many Christians do you know? I can name dozens right off the bat within my own community, okay? Within the community that I live in, okay? That is that has literally cursed in using the name Jesus. Okay? That's that's considered blasphemy according to the Christian faith, right? Hell, even my son's mother, who is a Baptist, hates it when I do that. Okay? I'm not a Christian. I'm a necromancer. Okay, I used to be a Satanist before I evolved and went into necromancy full time. Even I'll sit there and say, Jesus fucking Christ. And she's like, don't do that. Why? What's he going to do? Smite me? I'm right here. Come on. But no, you'll kill everybody else around me and leave my ass alive. You fucking dick. So, yeah. Like I said, let's talk blasphemy. So, anyways, let's go. Let's keep it going. Okay. Keep the Sabbath day to sanctify it as the Lord thy God has commanded thee. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work. But on the seventh day is the Sabbath day of the Lord thy God, and it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor the manservant, nor thy maidservant, and so forth, the ox, and all that shit. Okay, this is verses 12 through 14. Okay, now let's see. Okay, so basically, you do all your work Monday through Saturday. Now, Sunday is considered to be the Sabbath day, so you're not supposed to make anyone work, right? Huh. Is that why you go to restaurants after your little meetups, your little covenant meetings? Is that why you make waiters and which are considered to be maid servants or manservants in today's world? If you look up the terminology of servant, it means one who serves food and drink, not just a religious servant. So you're going to make somebody else work so you can sit on your fat ass. Hmm. You definitely violated that one. Okay. Okay. Honor thy father and thy mother. Okay. Huh. Well, let's see. Yeah, a lot of Christians have violated that one. I mean, you consider in Native American traditions, a child would suck on every woman's breast. They would call every woman mother, and they would call every man father because it was a community. Everybody joined in to raise the tribe and to continue the tribe going. But in Christian lore, Christian theology, you're supposed to honor thy mother and thy father, thy elders, basically. So if a minister and a family take out a restraining order against you, okay, then to keep you away from, say, their daughter, and I actually witnessed this, by the way, and it's ironic because that daughter and that guy that violated the restraining order and had it taken out on him literally was still in the same church. They were still screwing around. They were still dating. And when it came time for sermons, his ass was up in the sound booth while she was sitting down with her family. So if you're supposed to be 500 feet away, that's 500 feet. That's like going from one store to another. Okay. How can you be in the same building, the same proximity? I don't know about you, but his ass should have been thrown in fucking jail for violation of that order of protection. Okay. That no trespassing clause, so to speak, as well. But no, they violated this as well. So the daughter disrespected her mother repeatedly to do this. They ended up getting married and having a few kids, by the way. And guess what? Now her youngest daughter is married to a guy in his 30s, and she's only 18. Yeah. This is like Michael Douglas versus Catherine Jones type marriage. Yeah. Okay, let's continue on. Thou shalt not kill. Okay. If you're not supposed to kill, it doesn't matter if you're a soldier, it doesn't matter if you're a police officer, it doesn't matter if you are a civilian. You're terminating pregnancy, you're killing your neighbors, your community through acts of violence. Okay. Um, so again, Matthew's chapter 19, verse 5, a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave unto his own wife. This is basically a desire. This is human nature to take a wife and to further your lineage, right? So why the fuck would you go out sending children to kill children, or to put a gun or a knife in a child's hand and tell them you're now a gangbanger? Let's go fuck up somebody else's family. Or how about bringing them into a military formation and terminating militants from another nation? Wow. Okay. Yeah, you definitely committed violation there. Thou shalt not steal. Well, fuck that. How many times do you turn on the television, the boob tube, and you see people stealing? Yep. Okay. That neither shall thou bear false witness. Okay. There was a guy, I think it was on TikTok recently, where the FBI was not the FBI, but the local law enforcement was investigating some sex crimes, and this is something you could actually look up. From what I understand, the guy was 24, and he was accused of gross sexual assault. Okay, some sex crimes. Okay, and it was interesting because of the fact that a child, a 12-year-old girl, was taken to the hospital due to severe back pain, lower back pain. And they did some blood work, they did some testing, they found out that she was pregnant. Okay. And the mother and the family were pissed. Like, who the fuck did this? And the girl looks at this guy and goes, he did. That's called false witness. Okay. Where's the proof? Where's the evidence against this guy? Okay. Number one, there was no DNA testing. There was no witnesses. There was no nothing. Just an accusation. Okay, and now it's all over social media. I'm talking throughout TikTok and everything. And what's interesting is now his reputation's been tarnished. He's now his reputation's in the black because he can't defend himself. Because there's how do you come back from something like that? You know what I'm saying? So just by a scared kid being called out on doing something that is either curious to that somebody that age, or even if this did happen, you got to actually find the evidence and the proof and gather everything together and then put him on trial. But this didn't happen. It's all it said was that it was investigated. No proof was put forth, no evidence was put forth, nothing. So basically, what that resulted in was a he said, she said scenario. But it was the parents who came down on the daughter. Now, I don't know how many of you have children. I have a son that if you sit there and you try to get to the truth, they're going to sit there and go, well, I don't know. Or, say, for an example, well, he did this to me. Well, I can tell you that my mother tends to probe, okay, about things that happened at school, at my son's school. So, and keep in mind, my son is 6 years old, okay? So, did this actually occur? And the teacher is just not paying attention to what's going on, or is ignorant and discriminatory against my son. Okay. If she's aware of what this other kid's doing to my son, then should she not step in and say, hey, your son needs to be disciplined? But instead, she waits until my son does something in retaliation, and then my son gets in trouble. Okay? You see, that's called false witness as well because you're ignoring one half of the equation. Okay? So basically, if you, it's also like being a hypocrite. Okay? So if you're sitting there saying, well, your child's behavior has become much better. Okay, he's getting two smiley faces, or she's getting two smiley faces on her daily, report card. Okay, their schoolwork is being completed and turned in on time, and his or her grades are going up. Okay, but yet you're gonna sit there in the same sentence and say, "Oh, we're diagnosing your child with ADHD, and they're only 6 years old. Oh, we're gonna put him on medication or her on medication." Number one, 6 years old child. Is that not what a child's supposed to do? Is be flaky, silly, kind of sporadic? Hmm. But yet you're gonna sit there and teach algebra to a first grader. Where's the fucking logic in that? Okay. So so right there, bearing false witness, you've already violated this. Okay? Even when you get even if you sit there and you put words into somebody's mouth or you make an accusation without facts or without evidence, that is false accusations. That is making false witness. And Christians do this all the fucking time because a pastor is considered to be an idol. He's considered to be a lord. Okay, he's considered to be the pivotal, you know, how should I say this, pillar of the community, so to speak, to whom all must respect, just because he bears a title. But yet, all he has to do is point a finger, say, "You're a bad apple. You serve Satan, or you follow famine, mammon." And yes, I said famine. I said famine, but you also follow mammon. Okay, the greed. Now let's see. Okay, so you're gonna sit there and blame other people for shit, but yet your shit don't stink. How many ministers? Let's see. You have a minister that's raking in $15 million a year, owns his own football stadium. You have another bishop, a Baptist, that's out in Ohio, Michigan area. He's an author, renowned author, I might add, and he literally owns a chain of churches. Huh. Rakes in more money than an average banker. Wow. How is that not greed? Because you're always asking for more. Okay. And this is interesting. Neither shall thou desire thy neighbor's wife. Okay. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, manservant, maidservant, ox, ass, or anything that is thy neighbor. Now, I find it interesting how many Christians are sleeping around committing adultery and yet condemning non Christians for doing the same fucking thing that is literally within their religion or their philosophy, or just basically because they feel a connection to that individual and want to satisfy that desire. So basically, you've in violation of that as well. Okay, so right there, that's the Ten Commandments for you, and you violated every single one of them. Okay, now I'm going to take you back to the book of Revelations. Revelations chapter 22, verses 18 and 19. Okay, and I want to say it's this one here. Let me see here. I think that was in the other book. This is actually 19 and 20, I think. Okay, right here. And it says that if any man adds or takes away from this book, the same shall be done out of the book of life. Okay. So basically, every single denomination of Christianity, the JCI, has rewritten the Bible, changed the wording of the Bibles, and like a tree from the Kabbalah, you have a Bible per branch. And likewise, if you go into the nine choirs of heaven and hell, you have the same amount of Bibles that go between this realm and that of the throne of Satan, or from this realm to the throne of God. Okay, so basically, you got so many Bibles that you've already added and taken away from the works of that Bible, from the Bible itself, which again, you are supposed to believe everything that's in there. That's what you're led to believe when you become a Christian. So think about that for just a minute. Okay, you, when you go into Christianity, they tell you to get rid of all your occult stuff. You know, you have to give them, say, for, depending on the denomination, you have to give them like 3 years. You know, City Reach was one of these radical groups here in the Northeast of the United States. And one of their ministers tangled with me and was literally, well, let's just say he got the surprise of his life. He lost his wife, his newborn child. He put $1.5 million into his sanctuary, and guess what? That entire building was condemned, seen unfit for human habitation, and literally is being torn down as we speak. Okay, literally, it's sat vacant for the last 2 year, 2 to 4 years, and now they've gotten around to tearing it down. And it's funny because again, false witness. You got um, coveting falsicities of false gods and all that stuff because he favored popularity, he favored the youth, he favored everything that was not of his God. And it was interesting because this man was known as a con man. He was known as a man that how should I say this? Nobody liked him. Nobody wanted him here. Okay. I didn't give a shit if he was there or not. But when you notice that he's training the youth, as in teenagers, to be to be sneaks, to be liars and betrayers, and to be radical soldiers, that's not a good thing, especially in this day and age, because you're basically training them to wage war, okay, on other religions, not just the same religion, okay. Then on top of that, you're going to take money from the city to where they paid you to have your band play for 4 hours and you only play for 5 minutes and then pack up and leave. Oof, no wonder he pissed off so many people to the point where he was banned from Penobscot County. Okay, he can't even minister in Penobscot County. He was banished by the court of law. Okay. He, like I said, he lost his wife. He lost his newborn child. She took the kid and ran, divorced his ass. Last time I heard for anything of this guy, he was living out of his car. He was disheveled, and that's where he was literally ministering. He's out of his own car. Um, most of his so-called flock, scattered to the four winds, broken completely. His backers backed out on him because not only did he lose 1.5 million, not once but twice, because he went quarter mile up the road, set up another parish, only to lose that parish, and before getting banished from Penobscot and all that stuff. And most of his flock has, even his lieutenants, have fled, to the four corners of the winds, if you will. One of which is still here in the Bangor region, and he's still trying to carry on the same slanderous ways that his little butt buddy master, you know, did. And you're talking falsicities here. You're talking false witness, bearing false testimonies, false witnessing, and it's not just that, but you're also looking at legal charges too. If somebody wanted to apply the law against this individual, because of the fact inciting a riot is a federal crime, stalking and bullying is a federal crime. Okay, and it's so funny because now in this particular tradition, you have to stay in a men's home for 3 years and you have to work your ass off for them. That means you have to go out, get a job. You can't date. You can't drink. You can't smoke. You can't do anything for 3 years. Okay. Which, to be fair, I actually understand that because most religions, it doesn't matter if it's Zoroastrianism, doesn't matter if it's Satanism, doesn't matter if it's necromancy, doesn't matter if it's, say, for an example, occultism in general. Anytime you look at the Grimoire traditions, like say the Grand Grim War, or the say for example the Constitution of Pope Honorius, there's a good long period before you do any rites that you don't even hook up with a woman. You have nothing to do with women. Okay. And then on top of that, you've got extreme solitary moments where you're going to need to focus on what you're about to accomplish, what you're about to do from a ritual perspective. So spending 3 years in a group home is, in isolation is one thing. But to sit there and work your ass off for nothing, don't you think you have a right to earn a little money? To earn something for your troubles? Just saying. I mean, even the Fourth Amendment clearly states you have a right to make a living. That's the Fourth Amendment. Okay. Hey, the Black Tower. Welcome to the channel, brother. It's been a while. So, anyways, as I was saying, so from a grimoire perspective, isolation and being single is a good thing because number one, it gets you in tune with that current. Number two, it gets you ready and pure, a purified state for those rights. Okay. But to sit there and have to give all your hard-earned money to that church just because they say you have to, it's literally in there saying that you have to give 10% of your overall income to the church. Why would I give my money to a guy to sit on his ass most of the week and only come and preach for 2 hours? You're looking at what, $400-500 per service, per service. Okay, so if you go to church for 2 hours twice a day, that you're looking at $800 in one day. You go one other day, you're looking at another, $400 right there. So in actuality, you're putting out $1,200 weekly that could go towards your own family. Okay, go towards your household. And what do you get out of it? The minister decides when you get a job, where you work, what you have to believe, and what you can believe. Whatever happened to freedom of religion? Okay. So again, this is nothing more than teepee, toilet paper. That's all that is. Because if these elders that you call ministers aren't going to follow them, and this is seen because it goes not just against the upper echelon of the church, but it also goes down into the congregation because you got the elders sitting there talking smack about other people. You got the youth thinking, oh, this is what I believe. And it's like you got nothing more than segregation here. You got slavery, my way or the highway. Okay, so like I said, you can go into one of these or its companion, and you can look up anything. Okay, for an example, let me look up. Since I mentioned it, let me go into the S and go into. Let's go into servant. Okay, servant. Service to serve. A person employed to perform services. Okay, ESP, household duties. For another, a person employed by a government. Public servant, civil servant. A person devoted to another or to a cause, creed, etc. Okay, to serve. You've got server, servitus, service. Okay, you got like four or five different types of service right there, just in a dictionary. Okay, and if you look up the term servant, it normally addresses somebody who serves food or drink, somebody who serves a deity. Okay, a spirit. Now, most religious perspectives are from an ancestral lineage. Okay, like Haitian Voodoo, Santeria, Palo Mayambi, or Brujeria, which has been passed down from generation to generation, a hereditary family line. Okay, if you go into Middle Eastern religions, say the Dark Ages or the Renaissance, if a family of say religious, let's say for an example, you're a prince. A king has four sons. Okay, let's say two sons, just in this case. One son, which is normally the eldest son, is going to be the next one to take the throne. So the younger son is the bastard child. Okay, so this bastard child gets sold off to the church to become a minister. Now, what have we learned from the 17th, 18th century? Most of these so called ministers, such as monks, struggled to survive and had to perform things like the Black Mass to even get by. Now you got devil worship involved. Wow. Okay. So again, they're serving the people. You go back to the first, second, and third dynasty of Egypt, and you're going to see ministers worshiping, cleaning, performing ritualized cleansings, um, let's call it mortician type stuff and mummification processes to or to public speaking and religious serving of whatever religion they were practicing back then. Okay, so you got different levels of priesthood right there doing different things, and one group is actually overseeing all the others, and on sometimes they get run out of town. Okay, go up into modern day Pakistan, and you have what is known as the Hashishin. Now, the Hashishin were highly trained assassins who were also known as holy monks. These monks were considered to be zealots. They were highly respected and highly feared throughout the Middle East. They even had castles that they occupied. Hmm. Look at the Vatican. They now have their own private army, their own private police force. They own their own city. Okay. Go back to the sixth, what is it? Let's go with the 10th century to the 12th century. You have what is known as the Knights of Templar. And they had two different types of knights, by the way. They have the regular knights, which were known as the protectors of the crossroads, and they were the knights who went to protected Jerusalem and all that stuff. They spanned it throughout Europe. And then you have what is known as what the hell is that? It was a special squad of Templar knight that I want to say it was Servetus, if I remember correctly. Let me just type that in real fast. I want to say it was Servetus. Let me go here. Let me see. Oops. I see what I did wrong there. Let's go with. I forget the name of it right offhand, but there was this other aspect here. Here we go. This is what I was looking for right here. The Knights of Templar were an elite fighting force of their day, highly trained, well equipped, well motivated. They were a common class, holy communions, yada yada yada. Uh, let me see here. Come on. There. You know, it's ironic. There's one thing you're trying to find, and you can't find the damn thing when you need it. Freaking hilarious, if you ask me. But you watch. As soon as I get off this, I'm going to remember what the hell that was. I want to say it was a special squad of Templar Knight. Because you had noble knights, you had the non-noble sergeants, and the chaplains. But there was one type of knight that I forget the name of it right offhand, but it was one of those ones that were considered to practice sorcery. And when a regiment disappeared from the Middle East, let's say for an example, they were sent out to do something and they lost um, contact with that particular regiment, they would send these knights out, and they were a specific type of knight, and I can't remember the name. I want to say it was like Spartacus, something. Uh, I can't remember what it was. What it was there. Like I said, it was. Yeah, it was an early foundation of them. It was when it was a special group that was there was like 3, 4 soldiers that would go out, and they were like a search and rescue type squad, if you will, and they practiced black magic. They were said to practice sorcery of some kind, and it was said that they went up against a legion of enemy soldiers, combatants, and they were the only ones left standing. It was like 10th century to 12th century type era. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of that right off the bat, brother. But you watch, I'll figure it out, and I'm gonna have to come back in and post it underneath the messages here. But yeah, there was this they were like a modern they were equivalent to modern day special forces, basically. And so you got different ranking systems of the Knights of Templar that were highly trained in combat, but they were holy men. So I mean, the Vatican had their own private army even back then, and this was before the main the popularity of the Knights of Templar exploded throughout Europe, and it was long before the blasphemy and the collapse of the Templars. Okay, the disbandment. And it was interesting because of the fact that even if you go back, let's say for an example, to the Order of the Black Robe, they had different duties and different foundations of it. You go back to ancient Greece, and you got the Oracle. You know, you type in the word priest or priestess, and you're going to have a wide range of names and spellings just on what these individuals were and how they were viewed from ancient cultures. So Christianity is a very young religion compared to these much older religions, but yet the priesthood has always been around. Okay. So today, to become a bishop or to become a cardinal, an archbishop, a cardinal, or even the pope, you have to go by the canon law. The canon law is like international law for ministry. It basically shows you what a bishop is supposed to act like, how they're viewed, how they are perceived, and their nature, basically. How their very lifestyle. Okay, are they humble? Are they um yes, that was one name of them. Yes. Yeah, they were seen as a lot of different things. I mean, the Hashishin are today associated with Assassin's Creed games. So again, they're taking a religious foundation and they're corrupting it for man-made purposes. You go into Hollywood, for an example, brother, and you're seeing things like the Warlock movie starring the late and missed Julian Sands, I might add. That guy was old school, loved the way he spoke. He presented himself well. Nothing but mad respect for Julian Sands. He will be missed. Um, but he played the Warlock. Okay. You go to things like the 1990s TV series Charmed, good versus evil, evil always loses, right? Well, let's think about this for just a minute. Even if you go back into proto-Roman era, a wife always submitted to her husband. The husband ruled the earth. He was considered the lord, the baron, if you will, of that land. So he could do whatever he wanted with that woman because she was considered property. Okay. But yet, a witch or a warlock who was seen as keepers of the secrets, was condemned, put to death. Now, what's interesting here is that in 1604, the Vulgate Bible came out. Okay, 1604, which was actually the beginning of the witch trials, or what we know today as the burning times. Okay, this is the where the women and neighbors were, didn't matter if they were practitioners or not, they were sent to the gallows. They literally, how should I say this? All it took was an accusation. So again, you're bearing false witness. You're you're following a text called the witch's hammer. Okay, the witch's hammer. And so basically, you're worshiping a book above all else, and you're committing felonies, you're committing lies, you're perjuring yourself. Okay, so you are putting innocent people to death through tortures worldwide. You got you got the Parliament law now in Europe, which witchcraft acts are gone. You know, in Europe, they're basically called fraud now, because if you were, or if you're seen as a fraud, you can get was it like $2,000 fine and up to a year in jail if convicted. Okay, especially through defamation of character, or you know, being a diviner. Okay, but what's interesting is that even here in the U.S., if it wasn't for Churchill, then a woman in 1930, what was it, 37, 39 area, would have been put to death underneath the witchcraft law. Okay. And she was actually the last one tried, by the way, here in the US. It was like it was late 1930s. And what was interesting is that she had a manifestation of a sailor who died on a warship, and the U.S. government, let's just say the U.S. government got caught with their britches down, and they went after her with the full brunt of the U.S. government legal system, and tried to convict her of witchcraft and all this stuff. But Churchill said, "Well, if you're going to do that, then we're no longer going to be allies." Now, what would have happened if Churchill followed through on that? We would be underneath the Third Reich right now. Just saying. But on the other hand, the fact that he did step in and the United States government backed down with their tails between their legs and let this woman go, because they didn't want the public to know that that ship was sunk by the Bismarck. Okay? So again, you got to know what you're dealing with. So if you're lying all the time, you're committing false witness, you're breaking your own 10 commandments. I mean, between local and national, let's go national law, doesn't matter if it's civil law or Napoleon, law, which is only 2 states in the United States that still go by Napoleonic law. The rest of the states go by civil law. You have federal law. Okay. Now, both of these add up to 666. 666, three score. Interesting how that works, right? So you look at how all the events have unfolded since Nicodemus. And yes, I have all his works in my library out in the next room. He foresaw Hitler. He foresaw Napoleon. He foresaw the technology. And he foresaw the war in the Middle East with the nations aligning against Israel. But again, like I said, the Vulgate Bible came out in 1604, 16th century. All other Bibles were derivative of that Bible. Now, where did this Bible come from? Oh, that's right. It was a part of the Codex Gigas, known as the world's largest book to date that was ever published. Now, what's ironic here is this book sits in the Oh, what was it? I want to say it was Swedish Public Library Museum, if I remember correctly. It takes about 4 to 8 people to lift and carry this book. You have to wear gloves just to handle it, and it's constantly under guard. But what's ironic here is, remember I mentioned the Order of the Black Robe? One of its members was supposedly the one that wrote that book in a single night. And it was said that he made a deal with the devil, hence why that book was called the Devil's Bible. So when you sit there and you say Jesus is Lord, or that, say, for an example, God is good or whatever, you're literally hailing Satan. Okay? You want to sit there and say that you believe everything in the Bible, but yet you're going to pick and choose like a dumbass, utilizing your right of hypocrisy. Guess what? No wonder nobody believes in your BS anymore. I mean, if you think of your forefathers, they used to have conviction. Now, all Christianity has done is become pussified. That's all you've done. You've been watered down to the point where you can't even wipe your own ass without begging God for permission. Wow. You don't even worship. The only thing you worship is money. Being number one, popularity, ego, pride. And when you get called out on it, that little ego, that little pride of yours gets hurt and you become butthurt over it. And you lash out at all other religions. You want to know why a lot of people have just suddenly said, we're getting off social media, we're just keeping to ourselves? It's just we see the rise in your stupidity and we see where things are about to go. We know you're trying to replenish your forces. We know you're trying to perform your little witch hunts. We know what you're doing, and we want no part of it. We're not playing that game. So when I sit there and I'm going through my TikTok channel and I'm just scrolling up and I'm seeing all these Christians sitting there saying, you need to get right with Jesus, you need to do this, you need to do that. Well, are we talking Jesus the man? Or are we talking Jesus the God? Because in Matthew's chapter 4, he was the man. It wasn't until after he was crucified that he ascended and descended to the thrones. Now, what's ironic here is that if you look at the poetical texts, this reveals the encounter in the underworld between Beelzebub and Jesus. And why Beelzebub, who was the lord of the witches' Sabbath, by the way, not Satan, as so many of these today's occultists believe. It was Beelzebub, Lord of Flies. Some say it was a derivative of Baal, Baalzebub, Lord of Flies, the Lord. Okay, Canaanite. Interesting. Okay, how names can change based off region and to region, country to country, language to language. But here it is. But here it is. In the poetical texts, Jesus supposedly removed Beelzebub from the throne and placed Satan on it. Now, what's interesting that Satan in Hebrew means accuser. In Jewish and Islamic, he means that he is considered to be the enemy. But yet, what's interesting here is that you sit there and say that he's the enemy of God. Where in the Bible does it say that Satan is the enemy of God? What it does say is that he was doing his job and fulfilling an office. Job chapter 1, the accusation. That's the first thing in the Bible that you see when it comes to Satan, where he's named as an actual angelic entity. Now, what's interesting though is if you go into Matthew's chapter 4, you see where he's fulfilling another aspect of his office where it means tempter. Tempter. He's not just the accuser, but now he's the tempter. About 400 years later. Let's keep going. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4. Satan is the god of this world. Little g, meaning less significant. This indicates that not only is there other gods, but he's the god that you're worshiping. Huh. Imagine that. And that is correct, Black Tower. Warlock used to carry the same respect as the shaman. Now, let's take a look at the term warlock. It's considered to be oathbreaker, betrayer, and a liar. This is the Welsh and Anglo-Saxon terminology. Okay? Anglo-Saxon and Welsh. This means Scottish, Irish, and Welsh regions of the world. Okay? When you get into the actual name of a male practitioner, you're looking at medicine men. You're looking at shaman, necromancer, magi, mage. You're looking at Bokor, Hungan, the Papa, if you will, the Polero, just another form of the priesthood. Interesting how that works, right? But yet, one religion has condemned all and convinced the world that all other religions are of one being, Satan, the devil. And when they sit there and go, well, he's a murderer, he just wants you to go to hell. Where does that say it in the Bible? Where does it say that he's the enemy of God? Where does it say that he has killed people? The only evidence that they can base their hypothesis on is in the book of Job, where he strolls into God's kingdom and he says, hey, your fucking people are not living right for you. And God sits there and goes, well, have you considered my humble servant Job? Okay, let's go with this. Okay, my humble servant Job. Okay, what about him? Well, you can go tempt him. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do, but guess what? You cannot kill him. Do not kill him. So let's take a look at this. Okay, lost his family, his livelihood, his friends, his business. He became homeless. He became a leopard. Okay, and anybody knows anything about diseases is that diseases can kill you. A virus can kill you. I mean, take COVID-19 for an example. A lot of people just started panicking when this came out. But if you actually looked at what this disease did, it was just nothing more than another advanced form of the flu. So basically, you set yourself up into a panic for nothing because it acted the same way as a flu does, a chest cold. That's all it was, just a severe form of it. So, but yet it killed how many people? Huh. Okay. Let's go back to the Black Plague brought on by rats. How many people died from the Black Plague? How about the Spanish influenza? Okay. Okay. So every 100 years, you got a new plague. We just got stuck with our generation having COVID-19. Go back to the 80s, you have AIDS. Go back to the 40s, you have polio. Wow. Okay. So every 40 years or so, you got a new disease as well. So 40 years to 100 years, you have major plagues. Okay. So, but back in this day, you had polio, or not polio, but leprosy. Now, leprosy can kill, has nothing to do with Satan, has nothing to do with him being a murderer. No. Did he give him leprosy? Maybe. But it doesn't say that now, does it? No. But yet, what you do see is a series of events where his friends turn against him. His wife and kids were killed by a collapsing building. Sheer accidents. Buildings collapse all the fucking time. Kind of like a ship losing power and, you know, slamming into a bridge. Not the first time that's happened. But yeah, people want to point the blame game. Huh. Livestock just goes off its own way. Okay. He ends up alone. And the example is that he died of old age. He died of leprosy in his old age. But yet people want to sit there and go, well, he killed my God. He's a murderer. Really? Well, in the book of Job, it shows all these events unfolding. One might say that Job died of a broken heart. The guilt killed him. Stress killed him. Cardiac arrest, if you will. Which has been known to happen. People just lost the will to live all the fucking time. I happen to know a family member that did that. Her mother actually died of heart failure, cardiac arrest. She could have survived through the operation, but no, she just gave up. Okay. So then we get into the New Testament and we see in the Gospels where he became the tempter. Now, what did he do? Well, let's see. He took the man, Jesus of Nazareth, to all these locations, said, if you bow down and you worship me, I will give you all that you see. Huh. Okay. Okay. I will give you all that you see. But they'll say, oh, he tempted my God. Again, look at the title Lord. This means bishop. This means a baron. It means a king, a prince. Okay. Wow. Okay. So how could that be a God? How could he be a God if he's a man? He didn't tempt your God. He tempted a man. And you want to put him on a pedestal, treating him as a God, a Messiah. All because you have two different language barriers. One that says that means God with us, and the other that says Lord of. Lord of man, meaning prince. Wow. Okay. Huh. King of kings, Lord of lords. Okay, so he's the top lord, so he'd be the king of England, so to speak, or in this case, the Middle East, or the region of Nazareth, right? But no, he and his family ended up having to flee that location, all because one king wanted to kill all the firstborns. Jealousy, envy, ooh, fear. So, who's actually committing the fear mongering? Not the witches, not the warlocks. In fact, wasn't it three wise mages that actually studied astrology and went and found the baby Jesus after he was born in a barn? Wow. And yet this king and all the fucking armies of the world couldn't locate this motherfucker. Wow. Talk about lack of intelligence. Talk about lack of intelligence. So again, you're breaking your own 10 commandments. Your own 10 commandments. And then you sit there and wonder, why are we not the top of the food chain anymore? Why are people losing interest in Christianity? Why do we have over 1,500 churches, synagogues, and steeples sitting, vacant in just about every fucking country? We need a revival. Really? Why don't you get your head out of your fucking ass and actually go by the Ten Commandments? The creeds are there for a reason. It doesn't matter if you are a Satanist following the 9 satanic sins, the 11 satanic rules of the earth. It doesn't matter if you're following the 11 adversarial doctrines of Luciferianism. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're following the 10 commandments of your so-called God. Those creeds are there for you to make a lifestyle around. And if you're not going to fucking live by it, how do you expect somebody else to? Wow. There's a reason why it's called lead by example. And the ironic part is I tell my bosses this all the fucking time. No wonder they hate me. I guess I am the adversary. Whoops, my bad. But you see the point. If you're not going to live by the creeds, no wonder you have no respect. No wonder people don't respect you. No wonder you're losing people from your synagogues, your churches, your chapels, your temples. It's because people are seeing your BS. Today's Christians are nothing more than the atheistic Satanists who are not Satanists. It's like the temple of the Satanic Temple. They're nothing more than liberals trying to make a point. They're flashy entrance. That's all they are. They have no doctrine, no sound background. They're nothing more than hypocrites. You want to practice Satanism? Follow the creeds. Get in line with the spirits. Learn and grow through self-mastery. The apotheosis is there for those who seek to grow and to mature. Plain and simple. Correct. Great and holy held the same. Correct. Now, if you look at all the great feats that Jesus did, he was a sorcerer. He was a warlock. Flat, plain and simple. I mean, he practiced necromancy. He practiced witchcraft. He had control over the weather, the elements. He brought people back from the dead. Okay. He created alchemy to help people see. He did exorcisms, which just about every grimoire out there today that are practiced had some form of exorcism. I mean, every religion has it, from Hindu to Buddhism to Christianity to Catholicdom, you know, and it's funny to see just how much of this stuff is out there long before Christianity was even a concept in its mother's womb. But people eat it up. It's like you need a fucking wake-up call. So yes, this was a discussion on blasphemy. So I want to thank the Black Tower for getting on here with me. I got to go jump in the shower before company comes. Today is my birthday, so hello, turning 45. Yeah, fun. So I got the dog coming at 2, and then my son and his grandparents are coming around 5. So I got to go get things ready for that. Thanks, brother. So, and then on top of that, I worked this morning, and I got a phone call at 2 that I got to take. So, yeah, lots going on in one day. I think I'll take a nap later. Just kidding. I don't go to bed until like 10:30, about 10:15, 10:30 area, and then I get up at 2 to go to work. Woo, fun. Yes, that's right. Responsibility to the responsible. Is that not what Anton LaVey preached in the Satanic Sacraments, if you will? The statements? Satan represents responsibility to the responsible. Indeed. Wisdom. Now, that man knew how to blaspheme. That man knew his shit. No wonder even Bob Larson respected him. But yet, you see the difference in the interviews between him and Anton LaVey and him and his daughters. He went after Zena LaVey and her sister and with no respect, no regard, no equality. But yet, you see the equality between Bob Larson and Anton in the interviews back in the 70s. Hilarious to see. 70s, 80s area. Amazing to see the difference in that respect. Now, where'd that respect go? It went out the window. That's what happened. That's what happens when you think of fame and fortune over spirituality. Now, if you're a minister, don't you think you want to be that ambassador between the spirits and mankind? Ooh, called you out on that shit, didn't I? But anyways, like I said, I got to get off here and go get ready for the afternoon's events. I hope this was educational. I hope it was enlightening for you. And keep on calling these fakes out, because eventually people are going to catch on to that, and they're going to see what happens when you're a fake. You're going to get called out because nobody's putting up with your shit no more. It's time to separate the real zealotry from those wannabes. Okay? Now, personally, I don't give two shits one way or the other, but this was something I saw on TikTok this morning after I woke up, and it's like I'm just laughing my ass off at the stupidity of it. Then I thought, why not make a video of it and kind of clear up some things, you know? So, with that said, always back up what you preach and always make yourself available to the public. And when I find that name, I will get back under here and I will place it in the chat area or the comments section so that you'll be able to see it. For the life of me, I cannot remember that fucking name. Damn, and I just saw it this morning too. And I actually looked into it and it was actually pretty cool. I knew about the Knights of Templar and I knew about the different hierarchies within it, but I didn't know there was a special forces that was connected to it. So that was something that was educational for me to learn. So even at 35 years plus in the occult, even I'm still learning. So if you can't say that you're not still learning, you're not a practitioner. Okay? Flat out. You got to constantly learn. You got to constantly grow. Trial by fire, if you will. Trials and tests. Forge the greatest iron. Look at the steel being forged through what was it? Sumerian fire and ice technique. Hell, look at the Japanese swords, the katanas, and how they were forged. They were the strongest metals of their time, still are, as far as I'm concerned. But it's the technique of constant growth, seeking out that apotheosis, that gnosis, educating yourself to self betterment. Because when you better yourself, you're going to find out that a lot of people that you used to associate with end up, and I mean end up, not being able to resonate with you. And they're just going to fade away into oblivion. I had an individual yesterday message me out of the blue and asked me how I was doing. I said, studying. Oh, sorry to bother you. I said, don't worry about it. What's on your mind? No longer on Messenger. So I blocked her ass. I blocked her profile. Why? If you're not going to be there at my weakest, what makes you think I want you there at my strongest? Just saying. Learn and grow. Have a good one.